always try and talk about it in a way of like, you may not understand the experience I talk about, but I bet you know this feeling, and that's how I always try and frame it.
I want to move
sort of stuff that I've done for years, and I added like my body stuff too, but they often would hit me back and be like, well, we can tell you're going to leave this when you find a new job. So I was just in this position where I couldn't get anything, you know, I'm a young brown dude and really struggling with sort of figuring out how the hell I even get something as basic as a job. Couldn't get on the door because I didn't have a permanent address, because at the time me and my parents were kind of in a tough spot. I feel like every single person I've ever interacted with always has something where I'm like, fuck, that's me. Like, how good? That's something that I really tap into when I'm in those moments, and that's what I think about when I think of like back then.
I love that outlook, and you're not over dramatized. You know, you're very real about what it was, right?
I reckon it honestly started young. Like I was a massive reader when I was younger, and was obsessed with reading. Like my favorite books growing up were.
How does that link into sort of lockdown, and what was the thought process?
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't have, and that's so crazy that you guys know this. I was really appreciative.
And it's work, but it doesn't really feel like work, and you can see where it's potentially leading to.
Yeah, for sure. Which I think is why I never try and frame the actual like doing of a lot of the comedy I do in like social and live as the hard part. It's the stuff around it that's the grind, but that part of it, bro, it's the most like rewarding, fulfilling thing, because you're literally like coming up with ideas that make you crack up.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay,
is this gonna make?
Before I tell the joke. So the joke is essentially on the idea of like, because at the time the Madeline McCann documentary had come out, and that was back when Netflix.
In 20 minutes, like how are you feeling inside your head going around doing it?
Nah, bro. Like I went into it knowing, and to be honest, that was probably like what doomed me from the start with it. Was I was going into it knowing I wasn't ready. But for me also, I went into it, the reason I went on this journey, which was to find my confidence and really just commit to being who I am in the moment. I didn't want to come out this perfect thing and be like, yeah, I've been a perfect stand-up comedian the whole time. I wanted to say, no, I suck, and I'm probably going to suck for a long time. And at the very least, if the only value you get out of me is me going on that journey and discovering that, I can definitely give you that. I can't promise I'll ever be good, but at least I'll show you my journey.
Look like these next few years, like is it a brand opportunities presenting? Like is money starting to come in? I know you started doing writing and producing shows. Like are there just lots of opportunities coming up, and you're trying to figure out what the right one is?
Yeah, pretty much. This weird sort of in between, and this place was like, oh, come through to Wellington to do some kind of partnership, and we'll fly you down, and yeah, you just pay for like all the stuff that you do, and we'll reimburse you. And I remember being like, how do I tell them I don't have the money, but can you just pay me the money before? But I didn't really know how to do it. So because I didn't have 20, 30 bucks on it, because it was all going back into the company. So I just kept getting myself in these situations where I was trying too hard to make the next jump up to the next level, because I had no idea what the fuck the reality of that even is. I didn't know how people actually operate. And really I was just like cosplaying what I thought you were supposed to do. And I thought at some point, eventually you just get invited up to the next place. And so that's why, you know, those few years, like actually after breaking through, was so difficult for me.
Were you looking for help?
Because I can think of, you know, all these crazy things. Like, you know, objectively I'm making a shitload of money because, you know, I'm doing all these like amazing opportunities. But because in order to validate my own existence in a lot of these spaces, I'm trying to like build this thing that I don't even understand what the fuck I'm doing. And I'm kind of just like looking around and I'm like, okay, surely someone helps with this. I've never talked about this shit. Okay. So it's kind of wild. So there've been a lot of like scandals in the brown community around like money and businesses like and shit like that. And I don't want to like reference anything too direct. There's a lot that have made the news, and there's still a lot that are kind of just, these people are nipping at our ankles, and we need that help. So like, how do I create some kind of infrastructure that supports, that fills this gap so that we don't need that shit anymore? And
that's a hell of a responsibility to feel like you've got to take on your shoulders.
And it's not because I come from any place where I'm like, I feel like I can help. It's just because, I had this experience. I know this is a real thing, and I don't want anybody to have to fall into this shit again. And again, like you said, Shala, it is a hell of a fucking responsibility to feel, but you only feel it because you're almost like scared for anyone else to fall into it too. So honestly, the biggest thing that I will say, and this is gonna sound so like weird and kind of crazy, but it's so hard, bro, because so many of these places will present you, and the places that had the biggest detriment to my mental health and to my career presented themselves to me as like an ally. Brown people, brown people. And that's what their context that I hope they understand. Like, now when we talk about like the brown struggle, this is what the fuck it looks like. You guys have one view of what it could be. I'm telling you, as a young brown man, this is what it is. So, yeah.
It's been clear, man. It's been good. I
appreciate it.
I did wonder if, like, the overseas stuff, like, if that's a bit of an escape, going to America and spending time there, because you're removing yourself physically from all of
So you quickly learn you aren't special. But they know how to be special. And that's kind of like what it was to me, I guess, initially. And it felt like this new thing that I think was gonna, all the stuff I've been feeling back home, like, I could just sweep that under the rug, and that's not it to me. This is gonna solve all that, because this is me starting new, and these people care about me because I'm doing different, and so, whatever. That's what. Yeah, we started young, and we yarned for like an hour, and that basically like started our whole sort of, I guess call it friendship.
Please tell me what he's really like.
Right, he's a buzzy dude, to be honest. He's pretty. He, like in person, is the quirkiness of himself, but take away the context of like it being funny. So he's just a buzzy dude, to be honest. He made this joke, like I told my partner this, and I'm not gonna hear from this dude again. And then my manager hit me up. He's like, "Hey, Theo's manager, like, he's like, what's this show?" And I was like, "Oh, well, brother, like we just hang out and let's keep this place down." And he's like, "Okay, man." Like, I think he was just weirded out by the fact that I just bumped into him and just walked out to him.
Have you got a set ready to go for that? Like, are you trying to tweak it and tailor it to?
I know someone. And he's like, "Yeah, Dave Chappelle." And I was already like, "Holy fuck, this. Yeah, what's that?" But I couldn't believe it. It was like, dang, I cannot believe this is how this sort of happens. So we get to the improv, because Dave's about to do like one of his. He famously does these after midnight, 3-4 hour sets at the improv. And how the improv does it is they'll put the tickets up like really late at night, and they'll say who is on. Like tonight being Wednesday, or whatever.
Tickets will be sold out by the time this goes live.
Probably, yeah. It'll all be out by the time this goes live. But you're going on tour next year, India, Australia, and then hopefully UK, US as well. And then I've sold a TV show legally, so that's what I've been.
Can you talk about that? Depending when this comes out.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's still pretty early days, so like, there's not really like a whole lot.
Is that it? Like, congratulate, like that's what I feel like downplaying it. I sold the TV show seems like a huge deal.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.